Okay, welcome everybody to the training tonight. Tonight I'm kicking off something new that we're doing inside the community. And tonight is the start of a 6-month journey that I'm calling Money, Purpose, and Legacy. And tonight's call is called The Energy Behind Your Numbers. And this is the first month in the 6-month series that we're going to be doing. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I am going to share my screen. And maybe. Okay. Okay, so like I said, tonight's call is called The Energy Behind Your Numbers, and this is month 1. So just before we dive in, I just want to say that for this training, you don't have to have everything all figured out before we start here. You know, I always like to say there's no shame, there's no judgment. This is just about having an honest, open conversation about your money and the energy around your money. Um, this is month 1 of 6 of the 6-part journey, and each training each month is going to build on the last one. And I wanted to start with mindset first, and we will definitely get to the systems later on, the tracking and the sheet and all of that. But honestly, our mindset, this is where everything starts first. Without mindset, the energy isn't going to come. And so many of us have, limiting beliefs or, you know, mindsets and beliefs around money that we grew up with that a lot of us don't even realize that we have. So, um, the like I said, the systems, the tracking, the tax part, all of that, we will get to that stuff. But it all works so much better if we have the right mindset behind it. So wherever you're starting tonight, so whether you're on top of your money and you know exactly where your money's at, what you have coming in, what you have going out, or whether you've been avoiding your numbers and you honestly haven't looked at them in years, that's okay, because we're starting tonight and this is exactly where you need to be. So your numbers are a mirror, and your bank account isn't just numbers, right? It's a reflection. And what I mean by that is your numbers are really a reflection of what you believe you deserve. So it's not about what you're capable of, but what you actually believe about yourself and what you believe you deserve. And most of you know that I've been doing bookkeeping for 30 plus years. And I cannot tell you how many times that I have actually seen this play out with clients. And what's interesting about all of it is that some of the most successful people and clients that I've worked with aren't necessarily the clients with the most money to start out. But the successful clients, they're the ones that are willing to look at their numbers and willing to, face it even when it's uncomfortable. And, that's what we're afraid of, is looking at our numbers because we're afraid of what it might say about us. And, avoiding your numbers isn't really the problem. The problem really comes down to a worthiness problem. And, I think about a client that I worked with, a few years back, and she had a very successful service-based business. And, the clients loved her. Her calendar was always full. She was always busy. Um, but when she came to me, like she hadn't looked at her numbers in months. Like she kind of had an idea what was coming in and what was going out, but she hadn't actually sat down and looked at her actual numbers. And it's not because like she wasn't organized, but she was actually one of like the most put together people that I knew. Um, Very good at what she did and very successful. But, once we finally sat down and what we found, it wasn't even bad news. Like she was actually doing way better than she thought she was. But she had been operating from this place of fear for so long that she'd been underpricing her services and definitely was not paying or wasn't charging what she was worth. Um, and she had been saying yes to everything to take on the clients because she was afraid she wasn't making enough money. And she wasn't saying no to the things that she should have been saying no to. And really, depleting herself and running on empty because of it. So that was all because she believed or she assumed that the numbers, that they weren't good and that they would confirm her worst fears about herself. So the moment that she actually looked and we actually sat down and looked at her numbers, looked at what was coming in and what was going out, she actually shifted. That feeling shifted for her. And it's not because the numbers actually changed, because they didn't. It was just because she actually knew exactly where she stood with her money. And that's that mirror that I talk about, right? It's not always telling you that there's something wrong. Sometimes it's just wanting you to look for yourself so you could finally feel more calm about your money. So, why we avoid things. So, in talking about avoidance, because I think so many of us, we experience what we experience about money, we don't talk about. And avoiding your money isn't about discipline, it isn't about being lazy or not knowing what to do with it. It's protection. And it protects us, right? Our systems, our bodies are built around, keeping us safe and protecting us. So some part of you don't want to confirm what we're afraid of by looking at our numbers, right? Thoughts like I'm behind or I've messed up, or even for people making money, sometimes they don't believe that they deserve to make more money. So here's the thing about that. Not looking actually feels safer to people than looking and finding out that you were right about, being behind or being wrong or, you know, not making enough money. But for all of those reasons, we don't look. And, if any of this like resonates with you, just know that like you are not alone in that. This is so much more common than people even realize. And oftentimes, like we know it in our gut, right? So if you just sit here and take a second and you, you know, you can drop it in the comments or you can choose to keep it to yourself. But think about the last time you actually looked at your bank account or you looked at your spreadsheet or however you track your income and your expenses. Um, how does that feel? How did that feel in your body? Right? Were you calm? Were you scared? Did you feel like you had a knot in your stomach before you even opened your bank account? I know one gal told me that she went to look at her bank account and literally it would make her feel like she wanted to be sick every time she had to open up that app and look at her bank account because she knew there was never enough money there. Um, so like there's no right or wrong way to feel about this. Like I just want you to be aware of what comes up for you when you think about your money or when you go to look at that bank account, because that feeling is where we're going to start and what we're going to work with and work on over the next 6 months. We're not going to avoid it. We're actually going to work with it. So the next piece is what it's actually costing you. Now, this is this is where it gets really important because this avoidance, it's costing you actually more than you think. It's not just late fees or missed deductions or, that sickening feeling that a lot of us get at tax time, right? It's the mental weight that you carry around with you every single day, the stress, that stuck feeling, the way that we play small without even realizing it. Avoidance actually takes up so much more energy than just looking at the account would. And then it shows up in ways that might not connect to money at all, but it could show up in how we're pricing our services. It could show up in your business, or could even show up in how big you actually let yourself dream about what's possible in your business, right? It really affects so many more places than we think. So the shift for this is awareness over perfection, right? And like I always say, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start looking with curiosity instead of judgment. And awareness is our starting point. It's not our destination, but you don't have to fix everything all at once. You don't have to fix everything today. One look without expecting anything from it is enough to begin, because our numbers, they're really just data, right? They're nothing to be afraid of. It's just data. But honestly, this is where everything can start to change. Not when it's perfect, but when we actually see it. And so this is what I've seen, like with people that have started doing this work. It's not just their books get cleaner, but that does happen and that does help too. But they actually start showing up differently. They charge what they're worth because they're not operating, they're not feeling fear anymore. They can make better decisions for their business. They make faster decisions because they're not avoiding their data. They know what they need to know about their business to make those decisions, and they're feeling less stressed. And it's not because life got easier, but it's because they're just not carrying around that invisible weight anymore. So this is so true, especially for so many of us who are in the season of life where everything feels like it's shifting. Like me, maybe you're caring for, elderly parents or taking care of, a spouse, or maybe you're an empty nester, your kids have left home, or maybe you're starting over after a bigger life event, a loss, a divorce, something like that. This inner work really becomes part of that shift that we need to make. And it's not about just money, because it's gonna flow into everything that we do. And it becomes about stepping into that next version of yourself. the one that isn't afraid to look at your numbers, the one that's going to build something that lasts, that's going to last for yourself and for the other people that you love, your family, your legacy, right? And that's what's possible when we actually pause and take a look at this stuff without letting it overwhelm us, right? Or feeling scared of it. So what's so next Tuesday, inside of my bookkeeping office hours, we're going to go deeper with the second part of this training. And that training is going to be called Rewriting Your Money Story. All right. So in that session, we're going to talk about identity and where your money beliefs come from. And we're going to get to the root cause of that story. We're going to understand where that root comes from. And we're going to connect those beliefs to the patterns that might be showing up for you in your business, in your personal life, wherever they're showing up. And we're going to create some affirmations, and we're going to use affirmations around those beliefs to shift them and to start creating new beliefs in real time. And then we're going to conclude with a live Q&A. So if you have any questions or, want to get anything answered, then that is the place to come. So that's going to be next Tuesday. And this is going to be a regular schedule from here on out. We're going to do the third Tuesday of every month is going to be the first training of the month. And then so third Tuesday will be the first training. The fourth Tuesday will be the bookkeeping office hours training, which is where we're just going to go deeper and we're going to actually do different activities to like next week being the affirmations. We're going to do actual activities around whatever we're learning to help us move forward in this 6-month journey. So that's it for this evening. And, I just want to say that you're not behind, you're not late, you're exactly where you need to be. And thank you guys for being on the call tonight. I know there was obviously some conflict or some mix up, but I'm glad that you guys were here, and thank you.